You're listening to Give Yourself Some Leeway with me, your host, Eugene. Over the last 5 years, through my burnout experience, podcasting, and coaching, I have learned a lot about burnout recovery as a high achiever. What to do, what not to do, and the common mistakes that many people, like myself, make along the way. This podcast is dedicated to help you break the burnout cycle. Optimize your life for peak performance when you need it most, and rediscovering how to truly enjoy living again. That's the key to your growth and success. I'm going to start off today's episode with a pretty big win. I was going to say a small win. This is a pretty big win for me. This is episode 134 of Give Yourself Some Leeway. This is the start of season 3. This is the 3rd year of Give Yourself Some Leeway. I started on the 22nd of August 2022, and 8 episodes in. By the time I got to December, I was very inconsistent with my episodes, and I felt like there was nowhere else for me to go with this podcast. And that's what I want to focus on today. The reason why I kept going with this podcast, with Give Yourself Some Leeway, was because of how I shifted my perspective. The words that I used to change my perspective on how I should go with Give Yourself Some Leeway and how I should go with my life. How the words we use every day can create how we see our world. I'm not going to get too philosophical on this about, how our reality is based on our perception. Everyone has a different grasp of reality based on how they perceive the world. But if you think about the words that you use every day, are they helping you or are they holding you back? For example, when I started the podcast, I was on my burnout recovery journey and I felt like there was not many people talking about their burnout experience on the podcast. I listened to a lot of podcasts about around then. I think I was listening to about 1,700 hours per year. I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and I didn't hear many people talking about their burnout experience, especially men. Not many men were talking about their experience of burnout in the workplace. So I said, how about I document my own experience? Because that's all I know. And if I document it, maybe some people will relate to it and that might spark a conversation somewhere. Who knows? If this helps even one person, then that's a win for me. And I shared, it may have been a bit raw and uncomfortable at first for me to share those feelings of what burnout really was like for me. How it left me feeling so numb and feeling like nothing. And when I shared the first few episodes, I was like, okay, feedback could be 50-50. But 90% of the feedback that I got from people was so negative. It was real backlash. How dare you talk about something like that? How dare you put that out in the world? People are going to think so low of you. They're going to think so little because of you being so vulnerable. That's career suicide. The fact that you mention your mental health in the workplace, that's career suicide. No one's ever going to want to hire you again. You're actually putting your own job at risk. This is what the narrative that people were telling me. And I could have taken that as, oh, I should just take the podcast down and never speak of it again and never try again. And people were saying that, thinking they were coming from a good place. That, you're actually causing more trouble for yourself here, Eugene. You should not be talking about this topic. Where I was self-aware enough to realize that the reason why people were trying to shut me down was because they felt insecure. They were deflecting the emotions that I was bringing up in the podcast. That they did not want to address this. And if I keep bringing it to light, they may have to deal with that themselves. So it was easier to try and shut me down, to come in numbers and shut me down, rather than to, hey, if I'm not comfortable with this, I won't listen to it. I wasn't calling them out personally and saying that they need to address these things. It was something that it just brought up some raw and uncomfortable emotion for some people, and they would have preferred that bringing up those emotions was something that I don't bring into the light of day, rather than them just turning a blind eye to it. Because once you become aware of these things, once you become aware of how hurtful and painful these things can be, and there is an option for you to step away from all that pain and discomfort and make a change for the better. But that change in itself means you need to get out of your comfort zone. Yes, it is painful and uncomfortable at first to realize those changes and to make them, to retrain old behaviors. And for a lot of people, they're not willing to do that. But that does not mean we cannot normalize having these conversations. Give Yourself Some Leeway became a place of safe discussion around mental health in the workplace, how to improve our leadership, and how to break the burnout cycle, how to get rid of toxic workplace practices. Now, if back then I listened to those people who said, we're giving you the best advice here that, you should stop talking about your mental health. This is a bad thing. You don't want to be talking about your mental health on social media. It's going to shut you down. People are going to cancel you. You're never going to get a job because you're going to be seen as the guy who had a mental breakdown or got stressed, couldn't handle their workload, completely burnt out, and that's all they're going to see. Rather than me being vulnerable, explaining, look, I'm going to be completely honest and transparent. This is how I felt, and this is how I've dealt with it, and this is the person I have become. And as a result, I'm helping other people to recognize those signs before they hit that rock bottom moment, before they go far down that downward spiral or find themselves in a burnout cycle of self sabotage, in habitual burnout, and it's affecting all the areas of their lives. If I listened to those people back then, I could have given up after 8 episodes and put my head down and never questioned where I could have been 5 years later. So the past 2 years of podcasting would never have happened. I wouldn't have had almost 100 guests on the podcast explaining their or talking about their experience and sharing their advice and the relationships and connections that I've made as a result of that would never have happened. By standing up for myself and having the self-awareness that I can make a change, or I can at least try to make a change. If people don't agree with it, they don't have to listen to it. But maybe there's someone out there who needs to hear this. Maybe there's someone out there who feels like they're going through this alone. And if searching for burnout on Spotify or YouTube or Apple, and they come across my podcast and they're like, hey, I can relate to this. This actually helped. How would I feel if my content wasn't there? Or if I could have helped, but I chose not to because I was afraid of what other people might think. Just what they might think. It's not like I harmed anyone in creating an episode about how I felt in the workplace and the changes that I made to feel better and how to improve myself. How, if I stayed in that place of not realigning my values, where would I be? I don't think I'd be in this small little yellow room podcasting right now. I can say wholeheartedly that if I didn't start podcasting 2 years ago, I would not be where I am today. And I don't regret a moment of it. And it all comes down to how I interpreted someone else's words, the perspective that I took from how other people reacted. It could have closed in my world and never opened me up to this, or it opened me up to these are conversations that people are trying to avoid, and I'm more open to them. And I want to normalize that. What could potentially happen by me creating a safe space for burnout, for mental health in the workplace, for breaking the stigma? What could potentially be? So, coming back to you, is there a word or a phrase that triggers you? Or maybe there's a phrase that you have used time and time again ever since you were a child, and you use it as an excuse as to why you can't achieve something, or something that's always happening to you, always holding you back. Is there a certain phrase that holds you back from doing the things that you want to do? Or I never have the time because, oh, I could never do that because, oh, that's way beyond my ability. I never would have done that because, oh, I've always been told I'm a bad singer. I've always been told I'm tone deaf. I've always been told that I have two left feet, so I can never do any of those activities. Oh, I'm not much of a thinker. I've always been told I'm not much of a thinker. Who told you these things? Where did those beliefs come from? Where did those phrases come from? And if you tell yourself those thoughts thousands of times over a lifetime, you're going to be conditioned to thinking that that's the truth, that there's nothing you can do about it. So, what are those phrases that you have? I want you to think about that. What is one phrase that you always tell yourself that holds you back from doing something that you think is unthinkable or impossible for you? And how can we change that narrative? I even realized about a month ago, someone brought it to my attention about how I was using the word right. How do I do the right thing? What's the right thing to do to move forward? And they asked me to change the word right to effective. As simple a change as that. Rather than looking for what's the right thing to do right now, to what's the most effective thing? What's the effective thing to do? The effective thing to do is to take action. Any action. That's the effective thing to do. Not worrying about whether it's right or wrong. The effective thing is to get it done. The ineffective thing is to not take any action at all, to procrastinate, or to keep on thinking about, oh, what's the best way forward? What's the right thing I should do to take the next step? When's the right time to perform this? And switching that for when is the effective time? What's the most effective way of using my time right now? And such one word changes everything. So if you think that your choice of words is ineffective, the power of your thoughts, the power of your words is fundamental to any action you take in life. Your thoughts and your perception create your world. So if you feel that you're holding yourself back or you feel stuck and you have this phrase or this excuse that sets a limit on you, that's holding you back, that leaves you feeling unfulfilled without a purpose, or you feel, well, I've hit my plateau. There's no way forward for me. This is as far as I go in life. This is my glass ceiling. I want to help break those beliefs for you, to break through that glass ceiling. If you feel stuck and you're in that downward spiral of burnout, maybe you don't even realize it, because that's how it was for me. It's hindsight is 2020. Speaking from experience, I was stuck in that cycle for a long time until I hit rock bottom hard enough to be like, I need help here. I really need to do something about this. I don't want that for you. Maybe there's a phrase that you're using that's holding you back from anything. Oh, I've never been able to achieve that. Oh, I could never do that in my life. Maybe it's more specific. It could be something that a parent or a teacher told you when you were in school. And that set a limit on how much you want to achieve in your lifetime. That you never think beyond that limit. Let's have a call. Let's start with a call. Let's see what we can do to get you past that glass ceiling, past that plateau. Let's break the burnout cycle. Let's see where we can optimize your life for peak performance when you need it. We can't operate at peak performance at all times, but knowing that it's there in your reserve for the times that you need it most, let's optimize for that and start enjoying life again. That was one of the biggest obstacles for me. When you're always looking for productivity and growth and success, and you forget how to truly enjoy life, how to be happy, how to have that childlike curiosity and happiness and ecstasy. Where does that all come from? Having that happiness and enjoyment in life is the key to your growth and success. Until next week, take care.